Welcome to Divisionalysis, I'm Fog. It's a Christmas special. And for this special, I have got a number of builds for you, and these are my meta for Countdown. Countdown being the best game mode for gear hunting in the Division 2, and in advance of Title Update 20 with all of the changes, there's probably a large number of gear items and weapons that you are going to want to be farming for. So let's get to it. Let's go. So the game mode's been out for a while, so I'm assuming that everybody is reasonably familiar with the Countdown mode and what it entails. I do have a couple of advanced tips and tricks at the end if you want to hang around for that, but for right now I'm going to get straight into the builds. And in this video of mine, I provided a large body of evidence to show that as a solo player, this is the highest damage AR build in the Division 2. And almost without fail, the vast majority of builds in Countdown you will see will be some slight tweak on this build. Now, if I'm running strikers in Countdown, I'll generally run Demolitionist because it will add more damage to the overall team output than any one of these single strikers builds. And I'm not here to give you another boring strikers build video. What I'm here to do is to give you builds that will output more team damage than any one of the strikers builds that you could possibly think of or have seen. I'm going to give you a crowd control build, I'm going to give you a healer build, I'm going to give you a tank build. All of them will put out more damage than any of these strikers builds. First build off the ranks is what I call direct impact. This build individually will only output about 35% of the damage that a striker's build can output, but that's not where the power of this build lies. The power is in Ongoing Directive. Ongoing Directive will provide 20% amplified damage to 7 other team members on top of the 35% individual damage that I'm providing. 7 times 20 is 140% additional damage. On top of that, that is being amplified again by Survivalist being 10% damage to status affected targets. The overall damage output of this build is worth roughly 2 strikers builds. That is provided that you can keep up the status effects, and this build does that with 4 different status effects. This is all being promulgated by the Habsburg Perfect Creeping Death backpack piece. And Perfect Creeping Death is considerably better than a standard Creeping Death. An additional 2 meters radius is a massive amount of area around a target. Not only that, the cooldown is 10 seconds as opposed to 15 seconds. I have the Imperial Dynasty to produce fire passively every 35 seconds. I've got the Chem Launcher to produce Ensnare. I'm using the St. Elmo's for shock, and the Hollow Point rounds produce a bleed effect. And to top it all off, I'm running the Grudge just to snatch Vindictive for the team every now and again when the opportunity presents. This is a super fun build that is a self-licking ice cream when it comes to team damage. Now, if you watch my incursion video, I explained about PFE mods and how they reduce your damage by so very little, but they increase your survivability dramatically. If you're running a damage build in Countdown, you are not going to notice the loss of 10% damage. The enemy is not going to notice dying in 1.9 seconds as opposed to 1.8 seconds. Run 3 PFE mods and enjoy 50% extra effective armor. The extra 0.1 second that you've saved on TTK is overkill. It's exactly the same with this build and the rest of the builds in this video. This is a status effect build. If you have a status effect Eclipse build that has a duration of 20 seconds, but every single enemy is dying in 3 seconds, you have overkill on your status effect. This build provides crowd control when necessary. It will stop an enemy in its tracks when it needs to, and on top of that it's going to add 140% extra damage that you've contributed, additional 20% amplified damage to the entire team. Key theme for these builds: effectiveness rather than the most of something. It does what it needs to, and it does it when it needs to. And it is a key point in the next two builds that I've got for you, because these are tank builds. The next two builds on screen are not mine. They are indicative of builds that I see in Countdown all the time. Now, although it might be an unpopular opinion, I call these selfish tank builds. Their damage output is actually less than the build that I just showed you, but what they do have is survivability. And that's why people like to run them. With 6 PFE mods, the Matador backpack, you have an effective armor pool of somewhere around about 10 million in armor. How much individual survivability do you need? The answer is not that much. It's overkill. And you've overspec'd into a single element. And the excuse that I hear about people running these all the time is that, well, I'm the one that's picking up everybody off the floor all the time. The job of a tank is to absorb damage and keep others off the floor in the first place. The first I call America. It's an oldie but a goodie, True Patriot combined with the perfect setup and also the Point Man, the two named items. The team benefits come mostly from True Patriot. Red Flag, 8% multiplicative amplified damage to every single target with the red flag, times 7 other players, 56% individual contribution to team output. Armor regen in the form of the white flag, 2% regen every time somebody shoots that enemy with a white flag. And the blue flag decreases enemy damage dealt by 8%. That means that everybody's effective armor pool has been increased by an equivalent percentage. You have increased survivability by both regen and also damage reduction, and you've increased their lethality by 8% as well with the red flag. Full flag and the fireworks display that follows is just an added bonus, but it does also add to the damage output of True Patriot. Now, Point Man is going to give every single player 50% of your armor pool. I have set this one at 1.8 million. That means that every other player is going to get, well, actually in Countdown it's you as well, but it is 900,000 worth of armor every 25 seconds. That is more than enough. It only needs to last 25 seconds before you can regenerate it. And that's one of your key tasks, is every single time that cooldown goes down, you're flicking the armor back on, so everybody has a virtually consistent additional 900,000 in armor. Combined with the white flag, this provides some of the highest survivability of any tank build, for the team that is. Additional to your damage contribution to the team, the perfect setup, providing 15% amplified damage to every target that you can apply this mark to. Has to be with a shotgun or a marksman rifle, and that is going to be provided by the Scorpio, which is in turn also going to provide 20% amplified damage. On top of that, you are going to be running the Firewall Shield if you're within 10 meters of the enemy, which it is your job as the tank to be. Everybody is going to deal another 10% amplified damage to that target. And on top of that, if they happen to be inside your cone of death, that is going to be an additional 12 or 13% damage per enemy inside that cone. It is multiplication upon multiplication upon multiplication, meaning that the damage output contribution that this build provides to the team exceeds that of a striker's build.
System restored.
When running a tank build with Vanguard, it's important to keep an eye on the buffs. The blue signifying the bonus armor is active, and then the grey is your cooldown. As soon as that cooldown is off, redeploy the shield, reinitiate all the bonus armor for your entire team. In the bottom left hand side of the picture, I'm going to show you a couple of build alternatives. One being the tardigrade, very easy alternative. I prefer point man. I think people are much more confident when the bonus armor is out in front of them. True Patriot is by far and away the best tank build by providing the damage reduction and also the armor regen from the blue and white flag. It gives it the opportunity to carry red cores instead of blue cores. Potentially even two, but in this case, the Coyote's Mask adds an extra layer of support, making True Patriot, in my opinion, the meta tank build. My America True Patriot tank is the one that I would go to if the team has more than enough damage. If it's predominantly made up of striker builds and survivability is where they're lacking most. The damage reduction as well as the regen from the white flag and the bonus armor is more than enough survivability for a team of damage dealers to get through. But if there is a mix of fake tanks and DPS dealers in the team, then this next build is the one that I predominantly go to because it offers more in the way of damage, slightly less in the way of survivability. I call it my blue-blooded bonus armor damage assist support build, or badass for short. This would be my favorite support build to run within Countdown because it provides a little bit more damage than what the True Patriot build does, a little less survivability. So it's perfect for when there is a mix of those fake tank builds along with DPS builds. So it's providing survivability to the DPS players, but it's also providing a little extra oomph to those players that are lacking in the damage departments. Doesn't require too much explaining. It's pretty much a repeat of the True Patriot build, but this time we've replaced it with ongoing directive. So 20% amplified damage for 7 players, more than providing your share of the damage quota for the team. And it's this time running 6 blue cores, so providing an additional over 1 million bonus armor for the team. Now the next two builds are healer builds, and a lot of people will say that a healer is useless within Countdown, but the Future Initiative set will provide more damage output to the team than any other build type possible, and that's because of the 25% total weapon damage that is added to each and every player. The buff works like vigilance for every player. A lot of people are confused that it's to do with the healer's full armor. Not true, it is the individual's armor pool. But on average, most players is going to result in 20 to 25% additional damage output to the team. 7 by 25%, 175% damage output contribution that you are making just by running the Future Initiative set. Now this version of the Future Initiative that I run for Countdown is only a mild tweak to the standard Survivalist's 6 skill tier version that you're used to seeing. I run it with Technician, and the difference between the two versions, there is very little. Survivalist will provide you with an additional 15% outgoing heals and the 10% protection from elites. With Technician, you will get an additional armor core, which is just slightly better as far as protection for the individual is concerned. If you change the Technician element to be heals rather than damage, then you're going to get an additional 10% heals as opposed to the 15% outgoing that you're getting with Survivalist. But because of diminished returns on outgoing heals, both builds are virtually identical in their output of heals and also with the survivability that's offered by the build. The key difference for Countdown comes from Technician's Faraday Field. When you're in those sticky situations with hunters and they find out the EMP, if you have managed to drop your hive next to you, your heals will continue to heal people Whereas a survivalist version of this is going to be EMP'd for 10 seconds, and your advantage, the advantage that you have provided your team, has essentially evaporated, because as soon as anybody takes any damage, they've lost the 25% damage buff, and you cannot get them back to full heals until that EMP effect has dropped off. Now I'm also running the BTSU gloves, and I'm firing off an overcharge as often as I possibly can in order to buff the team. But when I was running these builds, I realised two things. One, I was pumping out over 1 million with every single chem shot, and most people are running less than 1 million worth of armour, so that was overkill. And the BTSU gloves, although it's a nice advantage to have, people aren't really taking advantage of it and utilising it to its full potential. So what I did is I came up with a new build that offers all of the benefits, but then also invests all of that overkill into other aspects. I call this build Snake Eyes. So I've dropped the perfect setup backpack and I've dropped the BTSU gloves. I'm retaining the most important part of the Future Initiative set, which is 25% amplified damage for all 7 other members of the Countdown team. I'm still retaining an element of heals. I'm running at 4 skill tiers, and that's provided by the Technician and also the Brazos gear set, which is bumped to tier 2 because of the Ninja Bike backpack. That gives me a chem launcher that still provides 700,000 worth of healing. That's enough to get a damage dealing build up to full health, or virtually up to full health from empty. But to be honest, the reason why you're healing predominantly is to maintain the 25% amplified damage or total weapon damage that all the other team members get from being at full armor. 700,000 worth of heals is more than enough to be able to do that. Still carrying the healing hive, so I can drop that in random locations around the map, because remembering with Future Initiative that anytime you heal an ally, you will get that healing bonus, meaning that you personally will also be topped up to full heals, buffing your individual damage. And that's where the majority of the excess overkill from the previous build has been pushed into on this build. I've changed to 4 red cores. Obviously survivability is being provided by the Future Initiative heals. One, I heal other allies. I can also drop those heals for myself quite consistently, of course. I'm also running the Ninja Bike backpack, which gets the Sokolov piece to its 2nd tier bonus of 15% crit damage on top of the 10% SMG damage, and of course I'm running the highest DPS SMG that I possibly can, being the new Ouroboros. All of this means is that my individual contribution of damage has increased, and I can generally hold my own when it comes to a one-on-one fight, something that you're not really able to do when it comes to a true healer build. That's the advantage of this build, and it's providing all of the team benefits that you need from a Future Initiative healer. The team's still getting 25% all weapon damage. I still have the Faraday field, which prevents the EMP disruption, so I'm still able to heal while Hunter's around. And the build still has more than enough heals to drag a near empty DPS player to all the way full if they get into trouble. All the team benefits of our meta healer, but we've invested all of the overkill factors that were superfluous before, and now invested those into putting out a moderate amount of damage ourselves. Right, we're on to tips and tricks now. Some of these are becoming more widely known, but if you didn't know them, hopefully it helps you out. First and foremost, everyone should know this one: loot selection. Target the loot that you're after. Easy done. Hopefully you knew that one. But secondly, my pet hate, and many others as well, know where the start countdown button is. If you are the leader, know where it is, and don't start the countdown until everybody is fully logged in. Otherwise you could end up starting the mission 1, potentially 2 men down. When you get into the mission, or as you're loading, more specifically. If you get a wobbly load screen like this, that's a good thing. That means that everybody, all 8 members, are going to start from the same starting location. So traveling as a team to each of the hunter locations is going to be easy because everybody's in the same place. If you don't get that wobbly load screen, check your map immediately. Open up the map and see where the other team has spawned. You want to go to the location that is closest to the other team, or you want everybody to attack the same location. That way, every single member of the 8-man team gets the maximum amount of credits possible. And I think because people don't understand how the credit system works, people end up just going to the closest hunter first. So the way that the points system works is like this. You're given 3 encounters, of which you only have to complete 2, which is followed by a main mission objective. You get credits for completing the 2 encounters and then the main mission, but you also get credits for collecting the hunter dog tags. This is all compounded by an extraction bonus. And as far as I can work out, this is how the point system works. You'll get 1 point for each of the encounters that you complete. Most of the time you'll get 2 credits for doing that. 5 points for the main mission objective, and for every hunter tag that you collect you will get 3 credits. Each hunter gives you 3 tags, so that's 9 credits from each hunter. 8 hunters maximum, being a total of 72, meaning that the maximum credits that you can achieve from the mission is 79, or 80 if you complete all 3 of the encounters, but 79 will be the standard. And then after that there is an extraction bonus. Now the way that I believe that the extraction bonus works is that you will get 10 credits for completing the main objective. You will then receive 15 additional credits for every hunter that you kill. So completing just the mission alone and extracting, you should receive 17 credits in total. If you kill 1 hunter, you'll get the 7 credits from the mission plus 9 credits from the tags, and you'll get additional 15 bonus totaling 25, so your extraction bonus should be 41. For 2 hunters killed, your extraction bonus should be 65. 3, it should be 89. 4, it should be 113. 5, 137. 6, 161, and all of this is tracking until you get to 7, where it should be 185, but for some reason the game only gives you 184. But the next 8 one does track again with the 15 bonus for the hunter, and your total extracted credits should be 208. But at 9 credits per hunter plus an additional 15 credits for bonus or extraction bonus for killing each hunter, every hunter then is now worth 24 credits. If you make the wrong choice initially, you may end up with only 1 of those first 4 hunters, while the other team gets 3 out of the 4. So check the map, work with the other team, and everybody walks away with 208 credits every run. The last tip that I've got for you is to know where the loot boxes in each of the missions are. Every single encounter will have 3 black boxes within the mission, spread around the map. One of these boxes will contain loot for every single encounter. Every single room also contains one of the orange major loot boxes. This will only be unlocked if that mission happens to correspond with your main mission objective. Learn where the locations are, hunt them out early so you're not running around like a madman at the end of each encounter trying to pick up all of the loot. Or, even worse, missing some of the loot options. Have a safe and happy holiday season. Thank you very much to all the subscribers who have made this year very worthwhile. If you appreciate the effort and you got something out of the video, hit the like button. But otherwise, I will see you in the next one. Fog out.